We're starting with the Wednesday, April 8th, 2026, TransNet Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee meeting. So before we get started, I'd like to ask our interpreter to walk through how to access our interpretation services for today's meeting. Please proceed.
Good morning. Announcement from the interpreter. To use the interpretation feature, please scroll down to the bottom of the Zoom screen where the meeting controls are. Click on the interpretation icon, World, and select English as your language. If you're joining through the Zoom mobile app, cell phone, tablet, etc., please press the ellipsis and interpretation and then choose your language. Finally, click on Mute Original Audio to not hear the Spanish logo in the background. Headsets are available for interpretation. If you're in the meeting room, please check out a headset from the receptionist in the lobby. Buenos días, aviso por parte del intérprete. Para hacer uso del servicio de interpretación, favor de desplazarse a la parte inferior de la pantalla de Zoom, donde aparecen los controles. Haga clic en el icono de interpretación globo terráqueo y seleccione Spanish español. Si está utilizando la aplicación móvil de Zoom, celular, tableta, etc., presione los puntos suspensivos, luego interpretación y luego el idioma. Si no desea escuchar el audio original en inglés en el fondo, por favor seleccione Mute Original Audio. Silenciar audio original. Contamos con auriculares disponibles para el servicio de interpretación. Si se encuentra en la sala de reunión, favor de pedir auriculares con la recepcionista en el vestíbulo. Gracias. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we call home. The tribal nations of the San Diego region have historically faced injustices. We acknowledge the harmony that existed between the land, nature, and its original peoples, who have since endured displacement, persecution, and systematic oppression. We pay our respect to the unceded territory and homelands of the 18 tribal nations in our region, the most in any county in the United States. From our cultural groups, the Kumeyaay, the Gueño, the Lisueño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla. This land has nourished, healed, protected, and embraced them for many generations in a relationship of balance and harmony. As members of the SANDAG community, we acknowledge this legacy. We aspire to learn from the indigenous traditional knowledge and experiences in undoing the injustices of the past. Now please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I will now ask our clerk to confirm that we have a quorum with a roll call for attendance. Clerk, please confirm.
Thank you, Chair. I'll begin calling the roll. Lorraine Alquist.
Present.
Jacqueline Appleton-Dean.
Here.
Mariam Babaki is absent. Sunny House.
Here.
Francisco Rivera.
Present.
David Santi-Stephen is absent. Lima Saft is absent. And Tracy Drager.
Here.
Thank you, Chair. That concludes the roll, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. Welcome to the April 8th Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee meeting, ITALK. I'd like to thank staff for their efforts to pull this meeting together, and a thank you for everyone on the phone and the web for taking the time to join us today. Let's quickly talk about how this meeting will work. We will take in-person public comments followed by virtual public comments. If you're a member of the public here in the room, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk. For those virtual, please continue to raise your virtual hands at the right time. I want to make sure everyone knows that public participation is possible in person and via Zoom as well. Sounds good? Great. Then let's get started. So first item then is number 2, public comments, communications, member comments. This is a portion of the agenda where members of the public have the opportunity to address ITALK on any issue within the jurisdiction of SANDAG that is not on the agenda. Public speakers are limited to 3 minutes or less per person. Public comments under this agenda item will be limited to 5 public speakers. If the number of public comments under this agenda exceeds 5, additional public comments will be taken at the end of the agenda. Members and SANDAG staff may also present brief updates and announcements under this agenda item. Clerk, are there any public comments?
Yes, Chair, we have two public comments in person, Cesar Javier followed by Prita Javier. And if you are online, please raise your hand if you would like to make a comment.
Request, Sir Chair, for my wife to go ahead first. Yeah.
Good morning, dear Tessa. Thank you for reaching out to my office regarding your continued concern over the air quality in your neighborhood and the bee apiary next to your residence. You reach over to the city's code enforcement department and country's air pollution control district, who found no violations of either air quality standards or city code. I understand you are interested in pursuing policy charges and invite you to contact out Director of Policy Brendan Dentino, who can answer any questions about the process of updating city codes. He can be contacted at 619 of
Okay.
533-3982.
Go to this last paragraph.
This one.
Yeah.
If you have any additional concerns that come up, please do not hesitate to contact Ben Mendoza or
Continue.
and constituent service
Okay,
would.
it's time.
mm,
Good morning. I am also a victim of
Cesar,
We have another minute if she wanted to continue. The timer started at 2 minutes, but we have 3 minutes.
oh,
So if
thank
you want to take the extra minute
Uh,
for her, then that's fine.
with her consent, can I have that to my time added,
Yes.
sir?
Yes, please.
Thank you. We are here not to put down people or destroy their reputation. No, sir. No, ma'am. Mess dames, sirs. But we are here to learn how to help ourselves solve this community issue. So the first thing we did was to tell our district leadership, Councilor Rivera, and this was the response, the letter read by my wife. And unfortunately, this is, to our observation, a deception. He is one of the governing board of Air Pollution Control District, with the mayor as senior founder of APCD, which she took from the county as an independent agency to look after clean air for everybody. Unfortunately, since this APCD agency is playing business behind the thinkers of SANDAG, behind the thinkers of our county, behind the thinkers in our city, San Diego. Why is this happening? Simple. Money, 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 greed. The governor approved the independence of that APCD from the county. And yet, the lifeblood continues to flow between them. When They procured air purifier worth 2.9 million. APCD made an MOU. Hey, county, let's work together. We will spend 2.7 million for 10,000 calculated victims in the Tijuana River pollution crisis. We reached the mayor's office 100 times, I may say that. The police, everybody, up to the FBI, up to Uncle Sam, only to say that it's a local jurisdiction, zoning jurisdiction, violation of land use, environmental, CEQA. Why is this, thinkers? Why is this happening? APCD, to our observation, is a business, the money bag of Sacramento. You know what I mean. Now I can ask from the city, whoever is political representative, where is the money? Where is the money supposed to be used to cure, care, feed the victims of Tijuana River Pollution Control District? Why did they only get the reading in July of 2024? Why? Oh, it smells rotten egg. Oh, it's hydrogen sulfide. Why only that time? We are projecting a proportion here. Why can't they solve our community issue, which has been poisoning the air we breathe since 1984? If they cannot solve that, Tijuana River, then I would say they cannot solve too our community issue. This is a question to hand to you and share to you in a hope that we could find that niche, a solution. I think this is a political crisis, political cancer under the leadership of Mayor Tad Gloria. I do not know why he's still not stepping down because the leadership is failing. San Diegans are being destroyed left and right.
Expired.
How
Thank you,
could
Mr. Javier. Your time has expired. Thank you. Okay, Clerk, do we have any other public comments or virtual comments?
Chair, this concludes the public comments for
All
this
right.
item.
Are there any member comments? Seeing none, I would like to ask SANDAG's Chief Financial Officer, Don Batiste, if there are any agency updates.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm filling in for Mario today. He's up in Sacramento for some legislative hearings. And he asked me to provide you with the following agency updates. The Board of Directors retreat was held last month with our board members, partner agencies, and advisory members, and it started some important conversations around the TransNet program and the future of our express lanes in the region. These are going to be policy discussions the board is going to explore through the rest of the year. In terms of audits, we have closed all 42 of the 2018 TransNet recommendations, and we're continuing to work diligently towards implementing the remaining 2021 and 2024 TransNet recommendations. I'm also very happy today to announce that SANDAG has achieved an unmodified audit opinion for fiscal year 2025 for our annual comprehensive financial reports, a significant improvement from fiscal year 23 and 24. This means our financial statements are presented fairly and in line with established accounting standards. The agency has been focusing on financial stewardship and strengthening internal controls around the tolling back office software, and we are very pleased to see it's paying off. For project updates, our draft fiscal year 2027 budget was passed for release to our partner agencies in March, and we are expecting additional revisions to be made between now and when it becomes final based on future board actions and decisions. The audit committee is still looking to fill 3 vacant public member positions. It's a shorter application than before, so they've made some revisions to it, hopefully to ease up the process a little bit and make sure we can get some good qualified public agency members in on that committee. It's a very important committee. Reach out, please, if you know anybody who may be interested. Our deadline is Friday, April 10th for those applications. And that concludes my updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. So now moving on to the consent item, we have items number 3.1 and 3.2 that require any action. I'll start with approval of the meeting minutes. Does anybody have any member comments on the meeting minutes?
I do have some
Go ahead, Sunny.
questions on item 3.2 and 3.3.
Okay, pulled 3.2 and 3.3. Any other members wanting to pull any items on the consent calendar?
And, oh,
Go ahead.
3.4.
3.4. Okay, so we'll take each one of these items individually. Meeting minutes, approval of the meeting minutes from March 11th.
I move to approve.
I second.
Okay, motion made by Sunny House and seconded by Jacqueline Appleton Dean. Clerk, you call the vote?
Oh, we do have one public comment on consent. Chair.
Okay, which item is that?
The entire consent calendar.
Okay,
Caesar, go ahead.
Mr. Chair,
go ahead.
thank you, SANDAG. We are not paid coming over. We spend our own resources to come here, spend our precious time. We would like to have our names also be etched on the minutes. I think SANDAG miss our names. This is the only reward that we would like to have if no action yet from the city thinkers on our community issue. On 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, these are all well done processes. But as I review the documents, the stick, I found something that we should be very careful, if I may humbly suggest. There is a name here, City Manager, assigned March 5, 2026, addressed to the Chair, City of Encinitas. I know this name. Are there two Jennifer Campbell? I know a name is this, it's Councilor District 2 of City of San Diego. Why? This is fraud. This is fake. Encinitas, City of Encinitas signed Jennifer Campbell, City Manager, dated 2026. This is a congested impact project something worth 3,109,388 dollars, which is the same in all the requests or application for congestion impact project.
Well, she doesn't have to live in City of Encinitas.
Thank you, Sir Chair. Again, we are learners and we are not here to compete, but rather little particles to bring into the reservoir of thinkers. We are not perfect, I know. And thank you so much, SANDAG. We are in search of solution. We go north, south, east, west. We knock at all doors of political units, if only to find solution, not only in our communities concern, but by God, we have unseen enemy. Environmental hazards. What you touch, what you inhale, what you drink, what we eat. The enemy is there and now in our cells, destroying the good cells in our body. You will note in your neighbors, relatives, friends, even members of your family, cancer from A to Z, infinite number.
Thank you. Your
Thank you.
time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Javier. All right, so are there any other public comments?
That concludes the public comments on the consent calendar.
All right, thank you. So member comments then on the meeting minutes. We've got a motion made by Sunny House and a seconded by Jacqueline Appleton Dean. So you want to amend your motion or as it stands? Okay, so clerk, please call the vote.
Lorraine Alquist,
Approve.
Jacqueline Appledeen,
Approve.
Sunny House,
Approved.
Francisco Rivera.
Approve.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Next item is 3.2, the annual submittal of the RTCIP program funding by the local jurisdictions. Clerk, are there any public comments on this item?
There are no additional public comments.
Okay. Okay, all right. So any member comments?
I have a question. I don't.
Go ahead,
Jack-
Sunny.
Jacqueline, you have, okay. Hi, good morning. I looked at the letters that were sent by the jurisdictions. And over the years, we have tried to make sure that there are no miscommunication on the amount of the fee that's going to be assessed by every city. And I think every city has done a great job of actually identifying the fee amount in their letters, except for City of Del Mar. The City of Del Mar letter is just as if it was the same letter that's written since 2017. It does not include the fee. And I'm concerned about that because we have had miscommunications in the past. And we have had cities that, even though the letter said they acknowledge, they have not assessed the right amount of fee. So how can we fix that?
The new microphones. Danielle Coachman, Financial Strategy Manager. I think, next year I'd like to bring this item maybe in May because the letters are due March 30th and that creates, a pretty quick turnaround to try to get it on the April agenda.
Sure.
But I think, if we ask for them to include the amount next year and just say, please, and then if we get it, we have time to request for them to resubmit if it doesn't include the amount.
Okay, this is next year. I would like to know, how will you be able to correct this information? We're supposed to recommend this.
Yeah.
But if I'm not sure the city understands what the fee amount is,
Yep.
we can always do a conditional approval
Okay.
and then make sure that the city provides an acknowledgement letter that provides the fee amount.
Okay.
Can we do that?
Just get an updated letter too.
Yes, that's
Perfect.
all I'm asking.
Okay. Yeah.
Just to make sure they acknowledge the amount because we've had issues in the past. So we're trying to fix the communication here. So
Okay,
is that okay?
Yeah.
go ahead, Don, comment.
Yes, Sunny, I also want to let you know, Marcus is here and we'll be taking the audit item later, but we have, last year and in other situations, we have been sending reminders to the jurisdictions about making sure that they have adjusted those fees and are collecting appropriately. I don't know if City of Del Mar had previously been one of the jurisdictions that had not, but Marcus can also look into that to be sure. We do have had some repeat offenders from time to time, but we've also had cases where it was, the audit found something that was a complete one-off,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I
So,
understand.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we are working to communicate on multiple fronts
Sure.
to the local jurisdictions so that we can stop having this item come up in the audit.
Yeah, no, I think
Well, that's what I'm trying to prevent. At least someone
Yes.
in the city says, I know this fee is going to be this much. Now they are committed. So hopefully that gets communicated within the city. But
Yeah.
if their letter doesn't even show the amount, then that's the first pitfall for miscommunication.
Yeah.
And I
No,
think
it-
one of our attachments had a table that showed a yes, it was with the auditors. I
Yeah,
think
but
that
they have
that said-
not acknowledged.
correct. And to your point, Sunny, I think maybe what the letter needs to have, because this letter then is passed on to the staff that implements the fees.
Yeah.
Is maybe have a sentence that is more direct that says, as of July 1st of this year,
Yes.
we will be collecting the RTCIP minimum of, and then you insert the amount so that
Yeah.
way it's clear for the administrative persons, because some of what's happened with some of the cities is
Mm.
the staff continues to charge the previous
Right.
rate and has not updated it for July 1st. And it's just a simple administrative issue.
Yeah.
But then collecting the uncollected RTCIP amount becomes a hassle, and we
Yeah.
have that in one of
Exactly.
our local agencies. So I
Exactly.
think we need to be more direct with that letter template, that it spells out the amount that they will collect, at least that amount.
And the date, yeah.
And the date as of July 1st of that year, so that way it's very clear what the intent is.
So Danielle, maybe for next year, the template can be updated, but at least for this year, I would like to get an acknowledgement from the city of Del Mar. So,
All right, so any other comment on that one?
that's all I had. for
Okay,
this.
any other member comments on 3.2? All right, and so we do have an action that the ITAC is asked to approve the RTCIP program funding program submittals in accordance with the TransNet Extension Ordinance provisions.
I would like to make a conditional motion to make sure that the city does reply with a correct letter, but I approve this item.
Okay, so approve with City of Del Mar
Yes,
revisions.
condition.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
All right, seconded by Lorraine Alquist. Clerk, please call for the vote.
Lorraine Alquist,
Approve with the understanding of the exemption.
thank you. Jacqueline Appleton Dean,
Approve.
Sunny House,
Approve, and I would like the staff to send us the letter when that comes in. Thank you.
Francisco Rivera.
Approve.
The motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you. Item 3.3, the RTP amendment number 14.
Jacqueline, you go first.
Go ahead, remember?
Mine is in conjunction with 3.4, so
Oh.
maybe you should.
Okay.
Okay. Richard, are you responding to this? Okay. I'm just having a little bit of trouble. In attachment 1, you have an amount of SGIP of 13,295,000. I'm having trouble finding that number in attachment 2. Maybe I'm not reading it right, but the total amount does not show up in the next page. So
Sure. So the 13,295 is the difference in between. If you look at table 2, the first page of attachment 2, there's 2 funding sections. The top section at the bottom of the total column, it has the 56,585, and then below that, in the area where it says project last amended in amendment 2509, the bottom number is 43,290. The 13,295 is the difference between those two numbers. So basically the change between the 2 amendments.
okay, so the SGIP, the transit SGIP added, is that the 13,644 in that table?
No, the 13,295 was added to the 13,644 is the prior amount.
Okay, so those are all, the bottom table is all the prior amount.
Yes.
So the top table is what's being added.
That's the current amendment.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cumulative. I see.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, it just was hard to follow the 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks
I
for the
understand.
explanation.
Okay, any other comments?
Yes.
ahead.
So kind of just going with that. If we come down, so I think I unraveled 3.3. But then 3.4 came along, and going back to what the board did, and I mean, I did the research and tried to follow along, but it seemed like there was a big leap. First, there was 21 projects, and then there was 15. And so can you just kind of walk us through like the chronological, like the scope and not the scope and the dollar changes together and maybe 3.3 and 3.4 go together?
So yeah, they do go together, and probably like the more specific like project scope questions would probably be for the grants folks.
And just the projects themselves. I think we went from 21 to 15 because we were only talking about the planning projects. Is that
Yeah, so
correct?
the, in amendment 14, because I have 3 on the agenda, so I'm trying to make sure I
Sorry.
stay on track. So 14 was the planning and climate action projects
Uh-huh.
that were approved by the board in December.
Right.
And then it was decided at some point, basically what happens is once the board approves, we are then able to program the projects in the RTIP to allow access to the TransNet smart growth money. And what had happened was it was decided that we were going to process an additional administrative modification to the RTIP to capture the remaining capital projects in January, once the board approved those. So
Okay.
we decided that we would bring, because we were going to, with item 7 on this agenda, we would have 3 RTIP items going. We decided to bring them all now. And that's why there's the approval date in December for amendment 14 following that board approval. And then there was the amendment 15 that was approved in March after the board had approved the remaining
March
capital
or
projects.
January.
So the board approved the remaining capital projects in the end of January, but
Okay.
by the time that we managed to get Mario's approval on the amendment 15, it
Okay,
was.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then we, based on the timelines for when we need to have things in for inclusion in the ITALK agendas, that's kind of what dictated when we included them. And then, like I mentioned, we have 3 on this agenda.
Right.
So we kind of stacked them up.
Okay, so dollar wise, we just mentioned the addition of the 13.2.
Mhm.
And then under 3.4, there was an additional.
That one went up pretty significantly. There was
Yeah.
a particular project in there.
So can you talk about, because it's not the whole 21 anymore. It's just.
It
And
was
this is where I
the-
got a little bit lost. Like, how many are in that?
There was, I believe, around 36, or 37. I believe there was one project I remember that was not, we didn't move forward with that one. I think it was an Escondido project. But these, like I was saying, the initial batch of the smart growth projects were captured in Amendment 14 for just the climate action and planning projects. And then we captured all the capital ones in Amendment 15 with there's a large one in there for, bear with me one moment.
The largest one is the SGIP.
Yeah, because it's a pot.
Yeah, there was a large one in Del Mar for the Camino Del Mar Bridge replacement. And I apologize, we don't typically provide our grouped listing backup information. I did provide the link to these in the agenda, but this was kind of a surprise to me that it was this large, but it was accurate. That one is adding $73 million alone, that one project, to the group listing. And so basically the increase in this amendment is to the smart growth in particular is that 131.795 million on top of whatever it was previously in Amendment 14.
Right.
And that's what you're seeing there.
Okay, so the one are all these projects, well, they're all lumped. So some of them are this cycle 6, but then some of them are from previous cycles.
Correct. Yes, we group projects that
And
have
how do
similar
we,
work.
and it might be on the dashboard. Can we see all these projects listed individually, or are they all going to be always lumped together?
So that's one issue that we have with the RTIP group projects is that they do kind of require an extra step to see them individually. But that's why I provided those links, is because those allow you to see the full amendment packages. You guys only see the TransNet funded projects.
Right.
So I included the full list, the full amendment link. And then if you
Okay.
look at the last attachment to that document, it has
Are we
all of
talking
the,
3 point, what are we
for
talking?
both,
Okay,
for both 3.3 and
Okay.
3.4. I
Okay.
provided similar links for those, and I provided you with the full amendment documentation. There's a lot in there that you're not concerned with. However, the last attachment there, the last few pages, are the V10 group listing
right.
and the individual projects within those listings.
So Richard, is V10 on 3.4 the one that includes the Del Mar Bridge?
That's in, yes, in 3.4, yeah, item 3.4,
All right, thank you.
amendment 15, yes.
And you said that there is a listing of all the projects. I don't see that. Okay. All right.
I'm looking at the PDF now from the link that I shared it for amendment 15 and item 3.4. If you look at page, just had it in front of me, page 23 of that PDF, it's 30 pages. Page 23 has that Delmar project bolded.
Okay. I'll find it.
That was the really significantly large one in that amendment that was added. But yes, to answer your question, they do contain projects that are from previous cycles as well.
Okay. It was just difficult to unravel that whole situation.
I understand.
All right. Thanks.
Okay, so if there's no other member comments, items 3.3 and 3.4 are for informational purposes only. Okay, all right, so now, thank you. Thank you, Richard. Okay, so now moving on to the report items. Item number 4, City of San Diego TransNet Program and Transportation Capital Improvement Program update presented by Patrick Ock from City of San Diego. So, public comments.
Good morning, Chair Rivera
morning.
and members of the committee. I'm Patrick Auch, Interim Deputy Director for the City of San Diego's Transportation Department. Thank you for having us today and giving us the opportunity to present the City of San Diego's TransNet program and Transportation Capital Improvements Program update and highlight some of our TransNet funds and how they're being utilized throughout the city. This presentation provides a status update on current TransNet funds, including fiscal year 2026 cash flow and projected cash flow balances. We will then take a look back at fiscal year 2025 key accomplishments, including submitted disbursement requests and TransNet funded projects that reached construction completion. After reviewing the current fiscal year's TransNet budget and estimated expenditures, we will conclude with a forward-looking overview of the proposed fiscal year 2027 TransNet budget, highlighting key funding priorities and notable changes. This slide provides a snapshot of the current fiscal year's cash flow estimates, alongside actuals from the prior 4 fiscal years. At the beginning of fiscal year 2026, the city's fund balance held at SANDAG was $40 million. By June 30th, 2026, the city is projecting approximately $49 million in total disbursement requests, representing about 102% of the anticipated annual revenue of $48.1 million. Since fiscal year 2023, capital spending has increased steadily, resulting in higher disbursement requests and a decreasing fund balance over the past 3 consecutive years. This year, we're anticipating to continue this trend. Based on the forecast, the city is projecting an ending fund balance of approximately $39.1 million for the current fiscal year. The City of San Diego is one of 19 jurisdictions that receive a share of TransNet revenue each year. The city's allocation represents approximately 40.7% of the total net annual revenue from the local street and road formula funds. The graph on this slide illustrates how each jurisdiction is utilizing its TransNet allocation by comparing fiscal year 2026 revenue to the total cash balance as of December 31st, 2025. For reference, a value of 100% indicates a cash balance equal to the current year revenue. As of December 31st, the city had the 3rd lowest cash balance among all jurisdictions at approximately 101% of its annual revenue allocation. It is also important to note that the city's cash balance has been fully programmed and budgeted toward active projects. This slide looks back at fiscal year 2025 and highlights several key accomplishments. Out of the total TransNet revenue of $49.3 million, the city requested $50.1 million in disbursements, representing approximately 102% of our annual revenue. In addition, the city completed construction on 21 TransNet-funded projects. The following slide will provide additional detail on these accomplishments. This slide highlights the 4 projects with the highest TransNet drawdowns in fiscal year 2025. SD96, our street resurfacing program, leads the list with $17.3 million, representing 35% of total fiscal year 25 disbursements. This program includes street resurfacing projects citywide. The second largest expenditure is SD176, the city's maintenance allocation, with $14.5 million or 30% of total disbursements. This includes the city's slurry seal program, as well as transportation's maintenance efforts across all asset types. This is followed by SD188, traffic engineering project implementation, with $6.4 million or 13%, and SD16A, traffic signals, with $4.8 million or 10%. The following slides represent 3 examples from the total 21 TransNet-funded projects completed in fiscal year 2025. These projects are ranked by total TransNet funding expended over the life of each project. The list is led by the Georgia Street Bridge Improvements Project. The scope of work included repairs to the bridge, retaining walls and concrete barriers, as well as pavement overlay improvements on University Avenue and Georgia Street, totaling approximately 37,000 square feet. Since its inception in 1999, the project expended a total of $1.9 million in TransNet funding. The second highest TransNet expenditures occurred within the concrete street panel replacement Coast Boulevard project. This paving project constructed approximately 0.2 miles of concrete street panels adjacent to the cave in coordination with the emergency cave stabilization project. The scope of work included approximately 33,000 square feet of concrete street panels and 3,800 square feet of concrete sidewalk improvements. Since its inception in 2020, the project expended a total of $1.3 million in TransNet funding. Lastly, we highlight a stormwater emergency project. This project addressed a failing 42-inch corrugated metal storm drain pipe that caused a sinkhole along Tuxedo Drive in the San Carlos community. Through expedited public works contracting, the city completed urgent repairs to stabilize the roadway and prevent further impact to the right-of-way and adjacent properties. Since its inception in 2022, the project expended a total of $765,000 in TransNet funding. For fiscal year 2026, total estimated TransNet revenue is $48.1 million. In accordance with the 30/70 allocation requirement, $14.3 million is budgeted for maintenance activities and $33.3 million for congestion relief. Of the congestion relief funding, $25.5 million or 77% is allocated to the capital improvements program. TransNet remains a key funding source for the Transportation Department's capital improvements program. This chart illustrates the various funding sources that support the department's capital improvements program, grouped into 9 funding categories. As of December 31st, 2025, TransNet accounts for $65.7 million or 13.8% of the total capital budget of roughly $500 million. As noted earlier, the city is projecting total TransNet drawdowns of $49 million in the current fiscal year, of which approximately $29 million is expected to be expended on capital improvements program projects. As of December 31st, the total TransNet expenditures reached 24.7 million, representing approximately 50% of the annual projection. With only 3 months remaining in the fiscal year, the city is well positioned to achieve its projected total of 49 million, requiring approximately an additional $9 million of expenditures from now until June 30th. The city currently has over 105 active capital improvements program projects that are fully or partially funded by TransNet. This slide highlights the 4 projects with the highest anticipated TransNet expenditures for fiscal year 2026. Combined, these 4 projects are projected to expend approximately 17.7 million in TransNet funding, representing 61% of total projected TransNet CIP expenditures for this year. Let's take a closer look at each of these 4 projects. The highest anticipated TransNet expenditures are associated with the fiscal year 2026 Mill and Pave project, which is currently under construction. The project includes asphalt overlay, pavement repair, and associated improvements across approximately 32 lane miles of existing roadway. It is delivered in-house and managed by Transportation Department staff. Construction began in 2025 and is in August 2025 and is expected to be completed this fiscal year. The project is projected to expend approximately 12.8 million in TransNet funding this fiscal year. The photos on this slide illustrate some before and after conditions of 3 street segments included in the fiscal year 26 Mill and Pave project. From left to right, the first image shows a 0.13 lane mile segment on Lake Adlon Drive between Lake Dora Avenue and Lake Como Avenue with a PCI as low as 8.17. The second image shows a 0.66 lane mile segment on Agati Street between La Jolla Mesa Drive and Dawes Street with a PCI as low as 15.6. And all the way on the right of the slide, shows the pictures show a 0.29 lane mile segment on Lake Angela Drive between Lake Arrowhead Drive and Lake Athabasca Drive with a PCI as low as 4.4. The project on this slide represents the second largest anticipated TransNet expenditures in fiscal year 2026. It constructs a pedestrian promenade and bikeway along Normal Street from University Avenue to Washington Street as part of the Eastern Hillcrest Bikeway project designed and managed by SANDAG. The project serves the Uptown Community Planning Area within Council District 3. Construction began in February 2026 and is expected to be completed in 2028. The project is projected to expend approximately 2 million in TransNet funding this fiscal year. This project represents the 3rd largest anticipated TransNet expenditures in fiscal year 2026. The scope includes full pavement and base reconstruction, installation of drainage and BMP structures, concrete bus pads, curb ramp upgrades, sidewalk repairs, relocation of pedestrian push buttons, upgraded crosswalks, and replacement of traffic striping and signal loop detectors. Construction began in 2022 and is expected to be completed in fiscal year 2027. This project is projected to expend approximately 1.5 million in TransNet funding this fiscal year. Lastly, this project represents the 4th largest anticipated TransNet expenditures in fiscal year 2026. The project includes approximately 5.7 repair miles of roadway improvements and installation of new sidewalks. Construction began in March 2026 and is expected to be completed in fiscal year 2027. The project is projected to expend approximately 1.4 million in TransNet funding by the end of this fiscal year. Looking ahead, the proposed fiscal year 2027 TransNet budget for the city of San Diego is estimated at $49.1 million, based on SANDAG's latest revenue forecast. Approximately 14.6 million, or 30% of the total allocation, is dedicated to street division maintenance operations. The remaining 34 million, or 70%, is allocated to congestion relief activities. This includes 25.8 million for the capital improvements program, 6.4 million for traffic engineering operations, 1 million for bicycle facilities, and 0.9 million for traffic signal improvements. This slide shows a more detailed breakdown of the 25.8 million of congestion relief funding that is budgeted in the capital improvements program. 14.8 million is proposed to go to street resurfacing. 3.5 million to El Camino Real. 3.2 million to bicycle facilities. 2.6 million to new walkways. 1.3 million to traffic signals, and 0.4 million to normal street promenade. The funding is allocated based upon estimated expenditure needs for each project during the upcoming fiscal year and takes project status, phase, priority, and equity factors into account. To conclude, I want to highlight a few key takeaways from today's presentation. The city currently maintains the third lowest fund balance among the 19 jurisdictions relative to annual revenue, which reflects our continued effort to actively program and utilize available TransNet funds. In fiscal year 2025, the city exceeded its annual revenue by disbursing 102%, while also delivering 21 completed TransNet funded projects, demonstrating strong execution and delivery. Looking at the current year, we're on track to again fully utilize the available funding, with projected expenditures reaching approximately 102% of fiscal year 2026 revenue. TransNet continues to play a critical role in our capital improvements program, supporting over 105 active projects and representing approximately 13.8% of the total CIP budget. Looking ahead, our focus remains on ensuring timely allocation of TransNet funding, maximizing expenditures, and prioritizing high-impact projects, and strengthening a coordination across city departments to support efficient project delivery. This concludes our presentation, and we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Patrick. Clerk, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
All right, thank you. Are there any member comments? Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Hi, thank you. That was a great presentation. I just had a question on, I'll call it your program SD 96, and it was the resurfacing and reconstruction, but it's not part of maintenance. Can you explain the differences between what constitutes maintenance and what constitutes, because that's put in the congestion relief?
Yes. So are you referring to a specific slide that you want me to show, or just in general?
In general,
Okay.
it came up early in the presentation, maybe
Okay.
like the 5th slide or something. Yeah, back up. I think this slide was where it first came up, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So we're differentiating between maintenance operations, which is slurry sealing the streets or filling in potholes, compared to actual overlay and mill and pave work, which is 1 inch or more of resurfacing the city streets. That's the main difference between the maintenance category of the TransNet program and SD 96.
So the difference is you're prolonging the life with the maintenance, whereas when you're doing an overlay, you're kind of structurally restarting over the degradation curve on a roadway.
And I understand the work. It just seems to me, it sounds still like it's maintenance and not like congestion relief.
A policy decision was made by the Technical Advisory Committee on where to kind of draw the line on what is considered maintenance and what's considered congestion relief.
Okay.
And so I think it's Rule 21 that lists all the different criteria for it. And there was a consensus that maintenance type work would consist of like slurry seals and, as Patrick mentioned, pothole repair.
Right, so kind of lesser
Yes,
construction. And this is like the road is really breaking down. You have to dig it out
correct.
to
Yeah,
keep the I guess
it's going
thinking
over all
that
the lanes.
congestion relief because you're not going to be able to get cars through there. Is that the thought process?
It was quite an extensive discussion on it. And so, yeah, there's a lot of opinions on it, but I think ultimately it was, if it's an inch or greater, then we're going to call that congestion relief because you're technically almost like reconstructing the road.
Okay.
And anything else is sort of like a quick process to go through that you're just prolonging the life without doing any more structural repair to the roadway.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yes, of course. And in addition to that, the city has like a whole decision tree on how to determine which projects are considered on top of the TransNet regulations, which are considered maintenance or capital. And I'm happy to share that after this meeting.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay, Patrick,
Of
I've got a
course.
couple of questions on your SD 96, which is your street resurfacing program. Is that a combination of city forces that do work under SD 96 and contracting out to paving contractors?
So we currently we started in fiscal year 25 to create in-house overlay. We call them mill and pave projects. So we currently have 2 active in-house overlay and mill and pave projects in SD 96. Everything else is sourced out to contractors and overseen by an ENCP.
And the paving work that is sourced out to contractors for the 1 inch or greater, what is TransNet a funding source for that, or gas tax and some other?
So we have multiple funding sources in the paving program.
Okay.
TransNet is a major funding source next to debt financing, and also gas tax is budgeted to SD 96.
And what is the typical size of a paving contract that's issued by the city of San Diego to a paving contractor?
So for your contracting questions, I will defer to ENCP staff that is on the Zoom call today,
Okay.
which they are overseeing all of the construction and the paving contracts for our paving.
Okay,
program.
thank you. Yes, and the reason I'm interested in it is because I think all the local agencies, we all have paving programs, because that's really what the public complains about. A lot is the condition of roads. You don't remember the roads that are nice, you remember the ones with the potholes. And so we only have a limited amount of contractors in the county, and with the escalation of oil prices and everything like that that's related to the construction industry, I wanted to get a sense of what the typical size of a contract that's issued for a major resurfacing project, so that we kind of get a sense of, maybe with City of San Diego, probably issuing the largest contracts on average. What type of order of magnitude of contracts that you're issuing?
Yeah, and while ENCP staff is getting ready on the Zoom call, I can quickly answer your question from a financial perspective. So we currently have 128 active paving projects in SD 96, and the average total cost is about 3.3 million. Average construction cost is about $2.7 million, and the highest estimated construction cost is currently for AC Overlay Group 2402, which is $14.5 million. So I'm not sure if anyone on the Zoom call wants to chime in on the actual contract values in the paving program.
Maybe because you answered it so well. Thank you very much. Yeah. Another question I have then is on your financing one that had the funding pie chart. There's 2 categories in there. the financing one in the green, it's slide 11. And then the other, which is the brown color. If you could just describe a little bit about what is within each of those two segments, the other and the financing.
Yes, of course. So we have 9 different funding categories, and one of them is the other category on this slide that I'm showing. And the other funding category pretty much serves as a residual classification for revenue sources that do not align with any of the other 8 primary funding categories. Okay. So this category captures a diverse set of non-recurring, restricted, or program-specific funding streams, including but not limited to MAT funds, trench cut fee revenues, parking meter revenues, RTCIP funding, developer and private contributions. These make up the primary funding categories, but if the committee desires, we can provide a more detailed list of all the funding sources and fund numbers and fund types that make up the other funds category.
No, I'm fine with that. I'm glad that I heard a lot of familiar terms in the other category, and so I think that's it's good that you're looking at every possible option that would go into the TransNet budget or to help resurface streets. So I appreciate that response. Any other member comments? Go ahead, Sunny.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it was very eye-opening to see your balance versus the rest of the cities. When we see big balances, it looks like it's not being spent, but I guess you have a much larger allocation or something. So it was very interesting. My question is about SANDAG grants, TransNet grants, SGIP or others. So not sure if you have information on that, but do you know as far as number of active projects that you have under those, or how the status, what's the status? Are they all on time? Are you getting them all done and being able to get your grant money or not?
Are you specifically asking about grant funded projects?
SGIPs, yeah. So I don't know if you have that many. There was a new round that just was I guess, awarded, but I'm just wondering for previous ones, how are you doing in that area?
Okay, yeah, we do not have that many TransNet-backed grants in the transportation department at the moment. I think it's only 2 or 3, but these projects are all on track and are expanding. And I think most of our SCHIP and others TransNet-backed grants have already been fully expended.
Okay. Okay, and then in this new round, I don't have the table in front of me. Do you have, I'm assuming every jurisdiction got a project, so you should have gotten one as well, right?
I will have to get back to you on that question.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
All right, if there's no further comments, looking at my members, no further comments. Okay, well, thank you, Patrick. Great presentation.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, so now we're moving on to item 5, FY 2025 TransNet Fiscal and Compliance Audit, Initial Findings and Recommendations presented by Kimberly Trammell, Marcus Pasquale, and Shanna Ayala from Davis FAR.
Hello, good morning, members of the iTalk. I'm Marcus Pasquale with the Finance Department, and I'll be introducing this item before handing it off to Shannon, our auditor. In accordance with the TransNet ordinance, the iTalk has the responsibility to conduct the annual fiscal and compliance audits of agencies that receive TransNet funds. ITALK is required to share the initial audit results and its recommendation to the Transportation Committee 60 days prior to its release to resolve any inconsistencies and technical issues. In item 5, which is this item, Shannon will be presenting the initial draft results of the audit. And in the next item, item 6, I will present the operator eligibility request to bring the operators into compliance. I will now turn it over to Shannon to present the initial results of the fiscal year 2025 TransNet fiscal and compliance audits.
Thank you, Marcus. Good morning. As Marcus mentioned, I'm here to report on the agreed upon procedures engagements for the compliance of the TransNet and TransNet extension activities. The scope of our engagement is to determine if the recipients of TransNet funds were in compliance with the ordinance for the year ended June 30, 2025. The procedures are approved by ITALK each year, and these procedures were approved last year in July by the ITALK committee. We review all 24 recipient agencies. We perform our procedures beginning in September, and we wrap them up in earlier this year in February. We test for 8 major compliance components. The first of those components is the spending of TransNet expenditures. So we test at least 25% of the total expenditures incurred and a sample of payroll charges if they exceed 20% of total TransNet expenditures. We noted no instances of non-compliance during our testing. So all recipients were in compliance with revenue and expenditure requirements. The second item we review is the maintenance of effort. So each agency shall maintain the same level of local discretionary funds expended for streets and roads purposes on average over the last 3 fiscal years. This year, all recipients are in compliance with the MOE requirements. I want to add that in the procedures that we completed for last year, for June 30, 2024, there was a requirement that's done every 3 years to re-index the maintenance of effort. We were not able to complete the city of La Mesa or National City last year because their ACFRs were not complete by the time we presented the final results. So we did perform that testing or re-indexing this year, and it essentially resets the maintenance of effort requirement for future years' requirements. The third item is the local agency balance limitation rule. And this is that each agency must maintain a balance of more than 30% of its annual apportionment, and they must use the remaining balance to fund projects. If they're not in compliance with this rule, then payments are deferred until the unused balance falls below 30%, and all recipients are in compliance with the 30% rule. Number 4 and 5 are local street improvements, congestion relief versus maintenance. So all recipients are in compliance with the requirement that at least 70% of the revenues were used for congestion relief, and also in compliance with the rule that not more than 30% was spent on funds for maintenance. Indirect costs. So for indirect costs, we review each agency's percentage of indirect costs allocated to TransNet. We check if they have had their indirect cost plan approved, or if it is approved by either management, city council, an outside funding agency, and if the percentage of indirect costs exceeds 10% of TransNet costs, we ask them for an explanation as to why. This year on this one, nobody is exceeding 10%. City of San Diego, Caltrans, San Diego County, theirs all exceed 10%. And this is typically due to staff. they have a lot of in-house staff that works on the streets and roads project. So the indirect costs are directly related to that. So when there's a lot of staff time on these projects, they'll have a higher rate of indirect costs charged to the TransNet projects. The next item is the Regional Transportation Congestion Improvement Program, so RTCIP. This was discussed earlier during the meeting, and this is a program that all agencies must collect a certain fee on residential projects and then also commit or expend that money within 7 years of receiving it. So all agencies were in compliance with the exaction fee collected except for the city of Encinitas and the city of National City. And then all agencies did expend or commit funds within 7 years. And the last item is transit operator eligibility. So this test ensures that the total operating costs don't exceed the change in the CPI for bus services or rail services, and both MTS and NCTD did not meet this requirement. And Marcus will discuss further the procedures related to this. And I'll turn it back over to Marcus.
Thank you, Shannon. Before going on to the next steps, I'd like to speak on improvements that we're doing to reduce findings, especially related to recurring exaction fee findings. I think this year was relatively clean and shows improvement, reducing findings from last year from 7 to 4. However, we still had the exaction fee findings related to National City and Encinitas. As we saw in item 3.2 on today's consent agenda regarding submittal of jurisdiction's RTCIP program, we are getting confirmation from each city that they are using the correct fees. Additionally, we are increasing our reminders to the city's finance departments and communicating the updated fees at the city manager's meeting. So with these increased procedures, we believe we can reduce the exaction fee findings to 0 next year. So with that, I will now go over the next steps. On April 17th, the ITALK presents initial results and findings of the audit and its recommendations to the Transportation Committee. June 16th is the earliest date the ITALK could accept and issue the final compliance audit results. So that's 60 days, and which 60 days following the report of the initial draft audit findings to the Transportation Committee on April 17th. So that's the ordinance requirement, 60 days from April 17th. That's as soon as you can accept it. And then the soonest meeting after that is July 8th. So that's when ITALK will have the final results presented to them. And that will conclude my presentation of item 5.
Okay, thank you. Clerk, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments on this item.
Thank you very much. Okay, members, are there any member comments? Go ahead, Sunny.
I just wanted to go back to attachment C of the report, which is the compliance with 30% fund balance. I saw a no for Lemon Grove. Is that the same thing? You mentioned they were all in compliance. Could you explain the no and what do you do to make sure they come in compliance?
Sorry, the report's like 400 pages.
I know. We had to look at it.
Let me look at the procedure because I may have to go back and look at our audit procedures and get back to you on this one because I don't have it handy of what exactly we're doing, if that's okay.
Okay.
Well,
not take up
while you're
time.
looking that up, if you can, I do have a question on number 6, the indirect costs. You talk about the upper end where the percentages are looked at to exceed, not exceed I guess a 10%.
Uh-huh.
But give me an explanation, and it appears that it's the smaller agencies that have 0% for indirect costs. Is that because it's
They
subbed
just-
out?
They just don't charge indirect costs to the TransNet program. So some decide to do so and some don't.
So it's like no timesheets?
It's not that there's no timesheets, it's just that the payroll charges may be very minimal. So some of the smaller agencies outsource or get contractors to perform like inspections and
Right.
engineering and planning.
Yes.
So the indirect costs don't get added to that. So they may not be using internal staff.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any other member comments?
Well, do we have a resolution to my comment? Let's find out. Or are you
Oh,
getting back to us?
So my
or-
apologies. I didn't realize there was one out of compliance when
Okay.
I said that they were all in compliance. So we
Okay.
will update the report for that.
Okay, but then you'll get back to us. What happens, in a
Yeah.
case like that? So as far as procedures.
So the procedure for this really is just a calculation of the ending balance times 30%, or the apportionment to the city times 30%, and then there's a threshold. And if the balance from Schedule A exceeds that amount, then they're not in compliance. So that means they need to spend the money.
Okay.
I'll also add for next year, when they request money, we confirm that they've spent down and became in compliance with this before giving them more money.
Good, thank you.
No, Marcus, this might be the case that we're Lemon Grove because they're such a small agency that they have in their multi-year capital program, a project that maybe they're saving up several years of allocation before they put that project out. And because I know with Del Mar, the comments I'd heard in the past was, well, it takes us several years to afford a traffic signal. And so that might be the case with Lemon Grove, that in their capital program, the funding is just not within one fiscal year.
Okay.
So that might help explain what happens with the very small agencies, Solana Beach, Del Mar, Imperial Beach, Lemon Grove.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
there is an explanation. I mean, there is a calculation on page 294 of the agenda packet, which shows the actual amount being, over the limit, but it doesn't explain, I think, what
Yes,
the reason is.
so I think that may be a little deeper dive into their capital program to see what they've put. And maybe it's like that we heard earlier from City of San Diego. They want to do a paving program of $1 million or larger, and they're waiting on the next allocation, their next fiscal year, which maybe they should go to the commercial loan program
Yeah, so,
Mhm.
if they want to do that. Okay.
all right, thank
Do we
you.
have any other member comments?
That was basically my comment too. And then you'll add it to, I don't know if the page is page 11 where you summarize.
Correct. Yes.
Thank
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and I think maybe the Lemon Grove issue is like National City, they'll do their 5-year allocation up front because they want to do one paving program, and then they're paying back their debt over the next 4, then they do another paving project. So I think that's a wise use of the TransNet funds because it gets all the money out at once, and they're leveraging several years worth of apportionments to get the best contract out there, because you're doing far more streets, less administrative work, and you're getting a lower cost per square foot of the street resurfacing. Okay, so with that, this item does require an action for us to accept, and the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee is asked to accept the draft independent auditor's report on results of the agreed upon procedures, including initial findings and recommendations for presentation to the Transportation Committee on April 17, 2026. So do I have a motion to accept item number 5?
I'm going to move to accept the item with the caveat that they add Lemon Grove.
Lemon Grove.
They're correct, yeah.
Okay, all right. So with the revision to the Lemon Grove, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made by Jacqueline Appleton Dean and seconded by Lorraine Alquist. Clerk?
Thank you, Chair. I'll now call the roll. Lorraine Alquist,
Approve.
Jacqueline Appleton Dean,
Accept.
Sunny House,
Approve.
Francisco Rivera.
Approve.
That motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
All right, okay, so let's move to item number 6, the fiscal year 2025 TransNet Extension Ordinance Funding Eligibility Request by Kimberly Trammell and Marcus Pasquale.
Thank you, Chair. I will now go over the eligibility requests for the operators, which are related to item 5. Part of the procedures are to ensure compliance of operator and local street and road recipients so that they continue receiving their annual allocation. This year, we have 2 requests from NCTD and MTS. Pertaining to NCTD and MTS requests, Section 4C5 of the ordinance states that to maintain fund eligibility, total operating costs per revenue vehicle mile for bus and rail services from one fiscal year to the next may not exceed the CPI increase for San Diego County over the same period. If there were unusual circumstances, the ordinance allows the operators to either calculate the requirement as a 3-year average or exclude certain costs. Both operators are choosing to exclude costs to bring them into compliance for both bus and rail services. Approval of this request by the Board of Directors would enable compliance with Section 4C5 of the ordinance, and NCTD and MTS would be eligible to receive all apportioned FY 2026 TransNet revenues. Should the board choose to not approve the request, then NCTD and MTS would remain in non-compliance for fiscal year 2025 and would be eligible to receive fiscal year 2026 TransNet revenues equal only to those received in fiscal year 2025, adjusted for any increase in transportation-specific CPI. We have representatives available for questions from NCTD and MTS if the ITALK has any questions related to their requests on attachment 1 and 2. And that will conclude my presentation on item 6.
Okay, clerk, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments on this item, Chair.
All right, are there any member comments? Jacqueline.
Question. So under in the staff report, it does say that that upon approval of the request of the Board of Directors, the findings will be removed from the compliance audit.
That's correct.
Is there a way you couldn't keep the findings, but just say that it was approved that they could use the methodology they were using? And
yeah, I think that's actually what we do. So the finding, the last couple of pages of the audit, those findings will be removed, but in the actual procedure that we perform, that speaks to that specific procedure of the CPI and the vehicle revenue miles, it says that they were at first in non-compliance, but they were brought into compliance by doing the exclusion, and it was approved at the board meeting on this date. So the trail is still there. It's not a finding anymore for the ordinance.
okay, but it's still in the report the way it sits, and then
Yeah.
And then my second question is, were they in compliance last year?
No.
When was the last time they were in compliance? Let's put it that way.
I think there was a rare circumstance. It might be 2 or 3 years ago when CPI increased like a really big amount, and so they were in compliance that year. But typically, they're not in compliance.
We've had discussions in the past about
Yeah,
this issue,
And I remember.
and it's subject to
vaguely.
amendment of TransNet, which will happen, right?
Which will happen?
Someday. We've started having the conversation with the board as the retreat, as Dawn mentioned, about, different aspects. We're now in the second half, almost to the second half of TransNet. This TransNet extension is twice as long as the first TransNet. We did that because when we went out to voters, it required a supermajority and we didn't know when we would be able to extend it. But now we have this really long sales tax measure that, hasn't been updated much. We've done a few amendments along the way. So really encouraging the board to take a comprehensive look. And this is one of the things that comes up all the time. And, the intent of this was really to encourage the transit operators to be fiscally responsible. But what we're seeing is a measurement of their cost pressures versus CPI, which is not, so starting to think about how we can measure what matters versus just kind of looking at what their external cost pressures are in relation to CPI.
And, and I agree with that. But I think the problem is that it feels as if it's just getting kicked down the road. And every year there's another way to get in compliance instead of, hey, this is how we're actually addressing this.
Amending the ordinance.
Yeah, or looking at it or talking about it or acknowledging that it's a thing,
I will also just note that the transit operators have other funds with other measures of their performance that are not tied to CPI. So this idea that our ordinance tied them to CPI when things like the old existing Transportation Development Act, the TDA funds and other funds actually use a different measurement. It would ideally be nice to have one measurement for all of the transit operations at some point, but those discussions do need to go back before the board.
Yeah, I guess I think I was clear.
Is that part of the amendment discussion then, the process? To come up with a new methodology?
This was one of the examples that we talked to the board about.
Okay. It's just we're pushing the can down the road. We keep doing that every year. One of these days we'll say no. Then what?
All right, do I have any other member comments? Okay, I've got a couple of questions. In the letters from MTS and NCTD, they give a good explanation of the reasons why they do not comply. And the MTS letter, the interesting point on that one that's made is the copper line. Because they went from a 3-car service now to a 1-car service, which to me, if I was running a transportation agency, if I can accommodate my ridership in 1 car instead of 3, that would help me, but it apparently it hurt the math on the MTS. And so that's very interesting how it plays out. But I think, the operators are trying their best to comply and looking at efficiencies on there, but certain things such as the increased cost of labor, the increased cost of parts, and a lot of parts are not just made in the United States. So, you've got all that buried into that, and the increased cost of security. I think these are legitimate issues. I think as member Sunny House has stated, is that it's something that we need to look at to see what can be done, because as the operators are consistently not meeting the requirements and we have to take action on this, it's something needs to be looked at a little bit deeper. Okay, so with that, then is there a motion? And we do need to recommend the action before us is that the Independent Taxpayer Oversight Committee is asked to, number 1, consider the TransNet funding eligibility requests of Metropolitan Transit System and North County Transit District. Number 2, recommend the Board of Directors acting as the San Diego County Regional Transportation Commission approve the requests. So with that is, if there are no further comments, can I have a motion to recommend item number 6? I'll recommend item number 6. Is there a second? All right, hearing none, then the motion dies. Is there another motion to be made by any member? Do we need to table this item for the next month, which I think would might present some issues from SANDAG? Is there a comment to SANDAG? What would happen if we
I'd like to
postpone?
just ask Amberlyn, if ITALK does not make the recommendation, does this still go before the board? Because the board can determine it without a recommendation, can they not?
That's correct. So the item would still go to the board for consideration, but we would note in the report that the ITALK did not make a recommendation or failed to take action on any recommendation, might be a more accurate way to say it.
Can we?
We didn't
make-
fail. We just didn't want to take action.
All right, so then I recognize member Jacqueline Appleton Dean. Go ahead.
My question was, can we make a recommendation not to recommend it?
You can make a motion. You need a second and
Oh,
we'd
okay.
have to vote.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion not to recommend this item.
Okay, is there a second? to
I'll
that motion?
second that.
All right. So clerk, please call for the vote.
Lorraine Alquist.
I'm sorry, could I just make one clarification? Is the motion to not, that the ITALK recommends that the board does not approve the requests?
Yes,
Correct.
correct.
Okay,
Thank you for that
I
clarification.
just want to clarify that this impacts their future TransNet funding for operations and the 16.5% that they will not be able to draw on for their next year's budget.
Well, the board can always override our recommendation anyway, right?
But it does say that the funding will go back to 2025, correct? John?
Marcus, what does it?
So if it's not approved, it's a formula where they can only receive up to fiscal year 2025's allocation adjusted for CPI. I'm not sure what that figure comes out to be compared to our revenue estimate for fiscal year 27 or 26, but there will be, I mean, if the estimate ends up being higher than the adjusted fiscal year 2025 revenues, that difference, they would not be able to get that differential.
Okay.
yeah. I think it speaks to the importance of the discussion that we've had,
That's
the way
right.
the metrics are measured here.
That's
And
right.
so, okay.
I think from my perspective, this is a reason to generate discussion at the board level that something needs to be done. You know, because we've been doing this every year. There's a lot of effort that goes into these audits and they come back and they say they're not in compliance. We're all kind of close our eyes and ears and say, okay, we'll just push it down the road. So I think we need to do something about it and soon. So
Could we include in our staff report to the board, maybe an explanation? Because the ordinance lies with the board and it sounds like you strategically want them to feel the pressure of considering amending this because we're
take the
spending a lot of
action. We
time.
would like them to start taking this action.
Absolutely. The comments of the ITALK and sort of the rationale behind whatever motion passes today will be conveyed to the board as part of the
Thank you.
report.
Okay, so with that, no further member comments. Okay, so the motion has been made by Jacqueline Appleton Dean. Was there a second? Sunny?
I seconded,
Okay,
yes.
seconded by Sunny House. Clerk, please call for the vote.
Lorraine Alquist.
So the status is that the recommendation is to put that forward with the board with us approving that process.
We're not recommending
denying.
approval to the board. ITALK is not accepting this methodology to basically release them of this obligation of being in compliance, right?
So in
That's what-
effect, we're not approving their requests.
Yeah, we're not approving their request.
So the consensus is that we're not approving the request.
Well, the consensus will be made after we vote, but basically a motion has been put on the floor and seconded that we should not accept their request, and you vote the way you want to vote, so.
And so that would go to the board saying that ITALK does not recommend that the board
If approved. yes.
approve this because, ITALK wants the board to update the ordinance to be a better fit. Big choice.
Go to someone else for no. You vote.
So I approve.
Jacqueline Appleton Dean,
Agree. Approve.
Sunny House,
Approve.
Francisco Rivera.
No.
That motion passes
All
with
right.
one no vote.
Okay, so 3-1 on that one. Next item is number 7, 2025 Regional Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 16. So Richard.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning again, ITALK members. Item 7 is Amendment 16 to the 2025 Regional Transportation Improvement Program, or RTIP. And on April 10th, the Board of Directors is scheduled to approve Amendment 16. Amendment 16 is an annual formal RTIP amendment that we process to accommodate the Regional Transit Capital Improvement Program. And this amendment reflects the programming of federal fiscal year 2026 Federal Transit Administration funds, which MTS, NCTD, and SANDAG will be applying for in the next couple of months. Attachment 1 is the summary of changes report that shows the prior and revised project cost, the cost difference, and the percent change in each project. This table is sorted in descending order by the absolute value of the change in dollars. As requested previously by the ITALK, we have also included a column to summarize the changes to TransNet funding for each project, as well as the table at the bottom showing a breakdown by the type of TransNet. In attachment 2, you will find more detail on the changes to each project in this amendment. Each project table shows the TransNet funding at the top, followed by any other funding that is programmed on the project. And finally, attachment 3 summarizes the TransNet eligibility requirements analysis for Amendment 16. And that concludes my report on this item. I'm happy to take any questions.
Clerk, are there any public comments?
There are no public comments on this item, Chair.
Thank you. Members, are there any public comments for, or any member comments for Richard? Okay, seeing none, if there's no further comments, thank you, Richard. This is for discussion purposes. So with that, that's it. That concludes all the report items on the agenda. Thank you. So with that, now we're on item 8, which is adjourning the meeting. And so we are adjourned at 11:07 a.m. Thank you.
They took away your gavel.
Yeah, have no more gavel.
No gavel.
All right, thank you, everybody. See you on Wednesday, May 13th.